This is a story about a tunnel. An ordinary passage of asphalt and concrete, you might think. But this tunnel, my friends, is far from ordinary. Nestled in the heart of the Willow Creek, it is shrouded in an eerie fog, a chilling cloak that wraps itself around the structure. It's a place where the air is heavy with whispers of the past, where echoes of forgotten tales linger in the damp, cold air. Imagine, if you will, a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs, where shadows dance, not from the flicker of headlights, but from the spectres that dwell within its confines. It's a place where the living and the dead intersect, where the veil between the two realms is at its thinnest. This is the Willow Creek Tunnel, a tunnel where shadows dance and the line between the living and the dead blurs. It was a cold, rainy night. The rain was pounding on the roof of my car as I turned onto the road leading to the infamous Willow Creek Tunnel. I'd heard the local stories, the whispers of a ghostly presence that haunted this place. I'd always dismissed them as just that, stories. But as I approached the gaping mouth of the tunnel, a shiver ran down my spine. The car's headlights pierced the darkness, casting long, eerie shadows that danced along the wet, slick walls. The rumble of the engine echoed ominously, the only sound in this otherwise silent, almost suffocating space. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, the light at the end of the tunnel seeming impossibly far away. It was then that I felt it, a creeping chill that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. A strange sense of unease crept over me. The tunnel seemed to stretch on forever. The air was heavy with a chill that seeped into my bones, and the fog grew thicker, choking the beam of my car's headlights. I could barely make out the road in front of me. Then, out of the darkness, emerged a figure, a woman, standing still in the middle of the road. She was dressed in a white gown, the ethereal fabric seemingly untouched by the dampness around us. Her face was obscured by the fog, adding an air of mystery to her ghostly presence. My heart pounded in my chest as I squinted through the windshield, trying to make sense of the eerie sight. The car's engine hummed a low, steady rhythm, providing a stark contrast to the silent figure before me. I could hear the distant echo of water dripping somewhere in the tunnel, each droplet resonating with the beat of my racing heart. A woman, dressed in a white gown, her face obscured by the fog. My heart pounded as I slammed on the brakes. Time seemed to slow as I stared at the figure in front of me, a spectral silhouette shrouded in a veil of mist. A chill ran down my spine. This was no ordinary woman. She was a ghostly apparition, a phantom stranded between two worlds. The fog rolled around her, swirling and dancing like lost souls. The air grew still. The only sound was the frantic beating of my heart echoing in the silence. As the fog lifted, her form became more distinct. Dressed in a flowy white gown, she stood there, a hauntingly beautiful spectre. Her face remained obscured, but her eyes, oh, those eyes! They glowed with an ethereal light, a stark contrast to the surrounding darkness. They were windows to an age-old tale of sorrow and despair. Her eyes, piercing through the fog, seemed to bore into my soul. Panic set in as the car engine died. The reassuring hum of the motor was replaced with an all-consuming silence. The headlights flickered, then went out, plunging me into a void of darkness. I was alone, trapped like a deer in the headlights, except there were no headlights, only the chilling echo of my own heartbeat. A cold sweat trickled down my spine as I fumbled for the ignition, my fingers trembling. I turned the key, but the engine remained silent. Each failed attempt to start the car only amplified the deafening silence of the tunnel and the overwhelming sense of fear. It was just me, the dark, and the haunting figure, lingering somewhere in the shadows. The cold seeped through the car, chilling me to the bone. I could almost feel her, the ghostly figure, drawing closer. The only sound was the heavy breathing of fear. I could feel her presence closing in on me. The air inside the car had turned frigid, each breath I took forming a ghostly mist. The whispers that had been mere echoes in the hollow tunnel now seemed to surround me, their ethereal voices an uncanny symphony of fear. They murmured tales of the unknown, sending a shudder down my spine. The figure, once lost in the foggy abyss, was now all too clear. Her spectral form was a menacing silhouette against the inky blackness of the tunnel, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. The sheer terror of her presence was suffocating, like invisible chains tightening around my chest. The whispers grew louder, the chilling screams echoing in the confines of the car. It was as if the very walls of the tunnel were closing in, the darkness seeping through every crevice, every crack. I was enveloped in an abyss of fear, the ghostly figure a relentless spectre in this realm of shadows. The darkness was oppressive, the silence deafening. The only sound was the rapid drumming of my heart, a staccato rhythm in this symphony of terror. The spectral figure seemed to feed off my fear, her form becoming more solid, more menacing with each passing moment. Her eyes bore into mine, a chilling gaze that seemed to pierce my very soul. I could almost hear her voice, a haunting whisper that echoed in the depths of my mind. Her words were a chilling reminder of the thin veil separating the world of the living from the realm of the dead. As the terror reached its peak, I felt an icy touch on my shoulder. A shudder ran down my spine, a primal fear taking hold. It was as if time had stopped, every second stretching into an eternity of fear. The ghostly figure was upon me, her ghastly presence a chilling reality. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move. The world around me seemed to blur, the spectral figure the only constant in this terrifying nightmare. The tunnel was no longer just a tunnel, but a realm where the living met the dead, a chilling crossroads of the unknown. Just when I thought all hope was lost, a light appeared at the end of the tunnel. It was a beacon of salvation, cutting through the oppressive darkness. My heart still pounded in my chest, but the sight of the light ignited a spark of hope within me. The whispers and screams seemed to fade into the background, drowned out by the sound of my own heartbeat. I reached for the car door, my fingers trembling. It felt like an eternity, but I finally managed to push it open. The cold, wet air hit my face, but it was the sweetest sensation I've ever felt. The rain soaked me to the bone as I stepped out of the car. I could still feel the ghostly presence behind me, but I was no longer paralyzed by fear. I was running, stumbling, falling and picking myself up again. I was determined to escape. With renewed strength, I managed to push open the car door and stumbled out into the pouring rain. I never looked back. The chilling encounter left me with a cold dread that seeped into my very bones. I could still feel her presence, that haunting figure in the tunnel, as if she had imprinted herself onto my soul. The echoes of her whispers seemed to linger in the air, a ghostly reminder of the terror I had experienced. As I left the haunting darkness of the tunnel behind, a sense of relief washed over me. Yet the fear was still there, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. The once familiar road home now seemed alien, tainted by the eerie encounter. Then, as if drawn by an unseen force, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The tunnel was an abyss of darkness, a gaping maw that swallowed all light. And there in the inky blackness, I thought I saw her. For a brief moment I thought I saw the ghostly figure watching me,